Hey, welcome. We're about to go on a pretty unique kind of journey. Not to some place you can find on a globe, but to a territory that exists inside every single one of us. Today, we're going to be diving into the mind-body maps, which is like a special guide for navigating our own inner world.
All right, so let's just kick things off with a big question, one that I think a lot of us wrestle with. How many times have you been led to believe that your emotions, especially the tough ones, are problems? Something you need to control or push down, or maybe even fix. It's a super common way to look at things, but what if we're missing the point entirely?
Now, this idea right here, it completely flips the script. This is the core concept we're going to unpack. So instead of seeing an emotion like sadness or frustration as a wall you have to get over, what if you saw it as a doorway, a portal that's actually inviting you into a deeper part of yourself?
To be able to walk through these portals, we first need to get a handle on what emotions even are, like at their most basic level. So let's redefine them from the ground up.
If you look at where the word emotion actually comes from, it gives us a huge clue. It's from the Latin emotere, which means to move. So by their very nature, emotions are just energy in motion. They're meant to flow. The trouble starts when we try to dam them up or pretend they're not there. That energy gets stuck. The whole game is learning how to let it move through us.
And this leads to a really subtle but incredibly powerful shift, and it's all in our language. When you say, "I am angry," you've basically become the storm. There's no separation. But if you just tweak it to, "I feel anger," everything changes. All of a sudden, you're not the storm anymore. You're the observer, the awareness that's noticing a storm passing by. That little bit of space is everything. It lets you respond wisely instead of just reacting.
Okay, so every good journey needs a compass, right? Well, it turns out we're all born with this amazing built-in one, and it's incredibly reliable.
Just take a second to think about your own body's intelligence. Your heart, especially, is like this incredible truth detector. It doesn't use words or logic, it uses physical feelings. It is constantly, in every moment, giving you feedback about what's true for you.
So the heart's language is super simple. It's physical. When something is really aligned with your deepest truth, you feel an expansion. It feels like openness, like you can breathe deeper, you feel connected. But when something's out of sync, you feel a contraction. You know that feeling? Tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, that sense of unease. This happens instantly, way before your thinking mind has a chance to analyze it. That feeling? That's your inner compass.
All right, we've got our compass, so now let's check out the map of this inner world. This is where we get to see the full, vibrant, rainbow spectrum of all our potential experiences.
Okay, so this is the spectrum of emotions. And listen, this is the #1 rule for using it. This is a map to track movement, not to slap a label on your identity. It's not about saying, "Oh, I'm a shame person," or "I'm a courage person." No. You are never, ever stuck in one place. You are always in motion, and you have the ability to flow through this entire spectrum.
So you can think of this whole map like a scale of emotional energy or frequency. Each one of these colored rings represents a different vibrational state. The warmer colors down at the bottom, like the reds, are the most contracted states, things like shame. And as you move up into the cooler colors, you get into the most expansive, open states. It's a visual guide to the energy that your heart is responding to. And just to really see how this plays out, let's look at the two polar opposites on the spectrum. Way down at the bottom, in shame, the heart feels totally contracted. The story it tells is a whisper, "I am wrong." But way up at the top, in what's called enlightenment, there's no story. There's no judgment at all. It's just pure being. The heart simply knows, "I am."
Now, you might be looking at this map and thinking, okay, that's a really beautiful metaphor. But what if it's more than that? What if this entire spectrum is actually hardwired into the most fundamental blueprint we have, our biology, our DNA?
This brings us to this really cool idea called the hologenetic profile. Let's break that down. Holo means whole, and genetic means origin. The idea here is that your DNA isn't just some static computer code for building your body. It's a living, dynamic map that holds the blueprint for your entire consciousness, your patterns, your gifts, your highest potential. It's like every single cell of you contains the whole you.
So how in the world does raw biology connect to something as vast as consciousness? Well, this system proposes a bridge, and it's called codon rings. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine your DNA is this huge, complex musical instrument. The codon rings are like clusters of strings that, when they vibrate together, create a specific melody. These are our emotional and psychological themes. They're the link that translates our genetic code into the actual felt experience of being human.
Now, look, understanding all this stuff is one thing, and it's fascinating, right? But the real power, the real transformation, comes when we move beyond just knowing it in our heads and start to actually experience it in our bodies.
Yeah, the whole point of this map isn't just to create a cool poster for your wall. The real work, the real magic, happens when we make that leap from intellectual understanding into full-body embodiment. So the question is, how do we do that?
So here's the path. It's kind of like a three-step process. First, things called the gene keys, which are basically deep dives into parts of our DNA, reveal our underlying patterns. Then, the codon rings help us see the bigger blueprint behind all those patterns. And finally, a practice using mudras lets us have a direct, physical experience of it all.
And mudras, in this context, are way more than just symbolic hand gestures. They're not just for show. Think of them like actual, physical, biological keys. Each specific hand position is designed to help tune your physical body to the highest possible frequency of a certain gene key. So when you hold a mudra, you're literally giving your body a physical way to tap into that potential. You get to feel it directly.
So we've traveled from emotions to the heart's intelligence, all the way down to the melody playing in our DNA. But what's the end goal of this whole inner exploration? Where are we actually trying to go?
This, quote, this just changes the whole game. It's telling us that the point isn't to try and achieve a permanent state called bliss or peace and then cling to it for dear life. Enlightenment isn't another emotional keyword on the map. It's the vast open awareness, the field itself, that can hold all of the other states, from the lowest to the highest, without getting lost in any of them.
And that leads us to this final and honestly probably the most freeing idea of all. You are not the emotions. You're not the joy, you're not the fear, you're not the anger. You are the awareness in which they appear. You are the clear blank screen on which the entire movie of your emotional life is projected. The emotions come and go, but you, the screen, the awareness, you remain.
So as we wrap this up, the journey doesn't really end here. This map isn't about reaching a final destination. It's just a guide. So the real question, the one that only you can answer is, now that you have this map, where is your inner world inviting you to explore next?